I'd start by saying what we do, first of all. We only represent, we're an agent and we work for producers, and when producers get asked to find funding from brands, we do it for them. We don't work both sides, we don't work for the agencies, and we don't work for the brands. And I think if I start by answering the last three questions, that'll probably cover half my presentation. So your point about DFS and if it gets sold abroad, 99% of branded content deals are done nationally. So it's paid, so I'm guessing Claire's deal with La Senza would have been paid right out of their UK budget. If it goes to another country, that's a happy coincidence. It's not built into the deal unless specifically done so. So Hawaii Five-0 on Sky, the latest series, is entirely funded by the Hawaiian Tourist Board. They don't care if we see it. It's aimed at people in Boca Raton, not at us. Secondly, your point about, what your last question was?
About Alias and about a brand.
Sorry, same thing. So yes, brands in America do entirely fund shit. Northern Exposure was entirely funded, for you remember that show, by Procter & Gamble. No one here knew or gave a shit. It's just the way these things work. And thirdly, my point on product placement is just buying product placements individually in one show is a waste of time. It's never going to make you money. It's never going to make the broadcasters much money, but because of the way Ofcom have done it. But where, as Claire said, it is going to make loads of money is when it's part of branded content and AFP particularly, because it's the one reason why people are going to do things. So I said I'm going to ignore my charts. That's because they're not there, so I'm going to have to. Moving on, I thought I'd be realistic and tell you how much money is involved in this. We worked out last year that there were 40 shows on UK television that were what we call advertiser-funded programmes. By that, I don't mean international shows that were distributed free of charge on Sky Sports 4 at 3 in the morning. I don't mean Samsung Powerboat World or Gillette World of Sport. I mean money where a cheque was written out to a UK production company to go onto a UK broadcaster. There were 40 of them. The average investment by a brand in those programmes was £375,000. Now you have to be very careful with averages because that includes the Krypton Factor funded by Sage at one end, which was probably 3 million, and lots of shows, mostly the ones I was involved with, which are way below 50 grand. There is a wide range, but on average 375 grand was put in. If you need 100 grand an episode for 10 episodes from an advertiser, whether it's Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, or the Worldwide Church of God, it ain't going to happen. The returns are not there. And so as producers, let me do a bit of interactive first. How many people here, put your hands up if you've ever made an advertiser-funded program? Well, Claire, obviously you have. You can put your, okay, so not many. How many of you have ever been rung up by a brand saying we'd like product placement in one of your existing shows? One. Okay, as I thought, brands don't really care about product placement. What they do care about is the chart that Claire put up about the campaign. Thirdly, how many of you have ever pitched a show to a UK broadcaster who said, we'd love to have that show, we can't afford it, so go and get a brand and we'll put it on? Yes, as I thought, probably everybody in the room. So that talks direct to broadcasters. In the last year, not in the last year, between MIP last March and Edinburgh Festival last September, we worked out, just from our point of view, we're one company with 4 employees. So we were offered by producers 86 programmes where they had all been told that they would go on to 5 at 7:30 on a Tuesday night, if only we could find a brand. We took on about 20 of them and we sold 3. So that gives you some idea about how tough this is. This really is tough. And I think one thing that, unless you are, frankly, Talkback or Tiger Aspect or Endemol, you're not really going to be, the phone is not going to ring up with brands saying, please make us a show, here's our brief. It does happen. It doesn't even for Tiger Aspect. It hardly ever happens. So the way to do it, I would strongly advise, is obviously the way we do it, which is why I'm going to say it. But don't start with an advertiser and think, how can I make a show for them? Because trust me, plenty of advertising agencies start with a brand and think, what TV show would be good for I Can't Believe It's Not Butter? And you can guarantee that it won't end up being something that you'll see at 9 o'clock on Channel 4. So the way to do it is to start with a show that you want to make, that a broadcaster wants to broadcast but won't or can't afford, and then go and find a brand that most matches that. What some people referred to as retrofitting. I don't believe it's retrofitting. I think it's realism. It's a show that will end up on television. And then give the brand the benefits off-air and do it online and off-air and in the campaign, and that way everybody's happy. The other chart I was going to put up was do's and don'ts. Claire covered a lot of these. The first thing to remember from a brand point of view is that you mustn't treat their money as a grant. They're not the UK Film Council, they're not a tax reduction scheme from the Canadian Production Commission. They do it for a reason, and that reason is a return on their investment. The return on their investment won't be measured in pound notes. They don't give a stuff how many markets you sell it to. They care what they're going to get in the UK on this run, unless specifically it's an international deal, which are very few and far between. We've done 20, and one of them was deliberately international. But the return that they will want to measure is the return in how many products they sell, or how their image is shifted, or how many. TK Maxx did one last year on 4 with Alexa Chung, and their goal was to boost the number of members they had on their Facebook page. But if you can't understand how the brand will measure it, they won't do it. It has to be measured. So understand that it's not a grant. When you approach brands, even if you're selling live coverage of the Second Coming, don't email info@Tesco, as one well-known production company, to my knowledge, did recently, because you'll get the, I'm sorry, our window cleaning requirements are in place for this year, but thanks very much, or speak to our agency. So in other words, make sure you know how to contact brands, and that does involve talking to agencies, because for every of the deals we monitored last year, every single one of them came at some stage via a media agency. Now, a media agency are the people that don't write the ads or they're not based around here. They're the ones based in Theobald's Road or the Strand, wearing polyester suits with degrees from the London School of Economics, and they'll work out that your programme's worth tuppence. So what you have to do is do all the things that Claire said on her chart to work out why they've got to pay you 30 grand an ep or whatever it is. As soon as they start commoditising, you've had it. But on a positive point of view, we've had more briefs direct from brands and agencies in the first 3 months of this year than we had in the previous 18 months. And there is a very good reason why product placement and branded content is taking off a lot more than it has done to date. And that's not because the rules on product placement have changed. In fact, the rules regarding advertiser funding haven't changed for 50 years. But there are 3 very distinct reasons why brands want it. The first of those is technology. Obviously, we all watch content on different devices other than just a TV screen. That means that there are plenty more distribution options for them. So if someone's going to get 5 million views on Facebook, that's in addition to whatever it got on Dave. That's one point. The second point, it's like a perfect storm of 3 things all happening at once. The second point is broadcasters haven't got any money. That's partly because there isn't much money around at the moment for reasons we all know, partly because they've all got to pay for their digital channels, and partly because they've all got to pay for their players, their online players. And all of those things mean that they've got less money. And then the third part of that triangle is brands. Brands know, because they're not stupid, that, we all think it's a bit odd these days to interrupt programs with advertising, but trust me, our children will all think it's bizarre, and they won't understand it. And our advertisers have always funded television. They have done since the Dark Ages, and they always will. But what they won't do is fund it through advertising. So they have to have content. Now, having said that, at the moment, 99% of money spent on television by advertisers is on spot advertising. But that is eventually going to change, and everyone knows it's going to change. So there is a demand from advertisers for content. There's a demand from broadcasters to spend less money. And new rules in product placement mean that finally it's like the straw breaking the camel's back. I was going to mix my metaphors there. And that's it. It wasn't going to take me a lot longer than that, but I thought I'd just fire some things out so we can all get a drink. Thank you very much.